Hello, hello to those who are joining us. We're going to get started in just about 30 seconds. We see we have people coming in. Welcome, welcome. If you're here for the Strengthening Communities Through Building Resilient and Inclusive Communities BRIC program webinar, you're in the right place. So we'll just kick it off in about 30 seconds. I'll let you know when we're officially going to get rolling, Edgar. Okay, I see we have people coming in, but we have a good group. So Edgar, if you'd like to take us away. Oh, Edgar, you're on mute.
So all right, so welcome to the webinar, Strengthening Communities Through the Building Resilient and Inclusive Communities program. This webinar program you'll hear about today is made possible with the funding from the National Association of Chronic Disease Directors, or NACDD. Next slide. Again, welcome everybody. I'm Edgar Herrera. I'm an AmeriCorps service member at the Illinois Public Health Institute, and I will be moderating today's webinar. Please feel free to introduce yourselves via the chat. Drop your name, your title, or your organization. All right, next slide. So first, a little bit about the Illinois Public Health Institute, or IPHI. IPHI is a nonprofit organization that works to mobilize stakeholders, catalyze partnerships, and lead action to improve public health systems to maximize health equity, and the quality of life for people and communities. Next slide. So before we continue, I just want to run through a little bit of housekeeping. This is a Zoom webinar, so all participants are automatically muted with the exception of the panelists. Second thing, feel free to type any questions you might have into the Q&A section. When we get to the Q&A section of the webinar, I will read aloud your questions so our presenters can answer them. Closed captioning is also available, so feel free to make use of it if need be. This webinar will also be recorded, and the recording will be sent to all registrants in our follow-up email. And then finally, if you happen to have any IT issues, feel free to chat Sarah, and we'll see if we can get it all sorted out for you. Awesome. Now, with that out of the way, let's introduce the presenters that'll be speaking today. So our first presenter is Tiffany George. Tiffany is an executive director at the Southern 5 RPC. Next slide. Our next presenter will be Victoria Zoman. Victoria is the AmeriCorps service member working at the University of Illinois Extension Office in the Jackie Joyner Kersey Center through the BRIC program. She is an undergraduate student at Southern Illinois University in Edwardsville, studying for a Bachelor of Science degree in Integrative Studies, focusing on nutrition and psychology. Next slide. And our final presenter today is Becky Salazar. Becky is an executive director at the Egyptian Area Agency on Aging. And with our presenters properly introduced now, let's move on to a bit of background on what BRIC is. So BRIC stands for Building Resilient and Inclusive Communities. It is a 3-year program funded by the National Association of Chronic Disease Directors, NACDD, with the following priorities. So COVID-19, BRIC emerged to respond to needs that came out of high communities in connection with the pandemic. Resilience. So BRIC is all about building strong, interconnected partnerships, authentic engagement, and health equity. Health equity and inclusion. BRIC aims to reach populations and communities most impacted by COVID-19 and other health inequalities. Policy, system, and environmental change. So BRIC focuses on progress towards PSD level changes. Within each strategy area, which I'll expand on in just a second, another focus and goal of BRIC is sustaining the work beyond just the project period. Next slide. So as I mentioned in the previous slide, BRIC works to respond to community needs. that arose during the pandemic through three key strategies: nutrition security, social connectedness, and physical activity. And I'll go in a little bit on each. You can see how health equity and social justice form the overarching framework for the BRIC program. Next slide. So for nutrition security, the goal of this strategy is to improve equitable access to nutritious foods by implementing nutrition standards at food banks, pantries, and other key food distribution anchor institutions. Victoria Zolman will present on the great nutrition strategy work happening in St. Clair County soon. Pictured on the slide is a pantry that we were able to work with in Jackson County through BRIC. Um, Victory Dream Center partnered with IPHI, the University of Illinois Extension, the Jackson County Health Department, and other local partners to create a culturally aware nutrition policy, provide nutrition education to staff, volunteers, pantry guests, and purchase cold storage to enable the procurement and distribution of fresh, nourishing foods. Next slide. Social connectedness. So the goal of this strategy is to promote opportunities to build community connections for older adults who are socially isolated due to COVID-19. The system's focus was on building sustainable referral systems to connect older adults to public health or community supports. You'll hear more shortly on the work that took place in the Southern 7 region. But right here, I'll highlight the work in St. Clair County, where partners established a cadre of trainers to pilot and then later expand on to other community sites, Plant Pals, and intergenerational arts therapy program. Next slide. And then physical activity access. The goal of this strategy is to enhance equitable access to safe places for physical activity and essential travel. You'll hear shortly about the work that went on in Cairo, Illinois. But here I'll highlight the work that was done in East St. Louis in the Washington Park community in St. Clair. A set of community partners put on a fall harvest event featuring, a community walk audit to collect input on opportunities to enhance walkability in the community. BRIC partners also participated in state-level capacity building opportunities hosted by IPHI and Active Transportation Alliance in connection with the CDC grant to build community capacity to apply for available state funding to support local active transportation projects. You'll hear about how this support helped the Cairo team soon. Next slide. And just to give an idea on how the regions selected were chosen, the BRIC regions were selected based on data from Leavitt Partners, which is a consulting via NACDD, that highlights need and burden within the state. Some of the factors, include nutrition security, access to physical activity, COVID-19 rates, and chronic disease rates. Out of this data set's high opportunity states were identified. Next slide. The data found within Illinois, St. Clair County, and then also Alexander County and Pulaski County in Southern 5 all had scores representing a great opportunity for improving in the three strategies that BRIC focused on. So that, again, that's social connectedness, physical activity, and nutrition security. Next slide. You can see those regions here on this map. So the Southern 7 county, Alexander, Hardin, Johnson, Massac, Pope, Pulaski, and Union County. These cover a geographic area slightly larger than the state of Delaware. We worked with Egyptian Area Agency on Aging, which serves the lower 13 counties, and with the Southern 5 NPO in Cairo, which is right at the tip of the state. Rural counties especially face unique challenges when it comes to physical activity and nutrition, long distances being a key one. In many places, there may be only one really critical service provider, serving even sometimes multiple counties, especially with little to no public transportation, or there may just be one grocery store or family dollar within a community. With St. Clair County, St. Clair County is the ninth most populous county in Illinois. St. Clair County straddles two states, Missouri and Illinois. We worked in Washington Park and East St. Louis. And with that bit of context and background information on the regions these case studies are taking place, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to our first presenter, Tiffany George, who's going to be talking about walkability in the city of Cairo.
Good afternoon. I am Tiffany George, and I am the Executive Director here at Southern 5 Regional Planning District and Development Commission. And we've done a couple different events in the city of Cairo, which one was a walkability audit and one was a St. Mary's pop-up at the local park. In 2021, myself and our staff and a committee of community members conducted a walkability audit within the city. We were actually able to inventory every intersection within the city. Of course, it's not that large of a city, so that's not as difficult as that might originally sound. By doing that walk audit, we were able to visually inspect any barriers that there were to walking. And, you know, realistically, it's a town that I drive in all the time. I visit all the time, but until you really start looking for, so when you really start looking, sometimes you see conditions that you would have never noticed just as you drive through or on a normal day. So as we were able to also determine that there were very few sidewalks that actually connected to the crosswalks. The ramps were not wide enough for walkers or wheelchairs. The sidewalks are in poor condition, and the crosswalks are no longer visible, sometimes not only to motorists, but also to pedestrians. It was kind of interesting, and I wanted to throw those pictures in, but I didn't because I didn't know, the rules on, photo releases. But we actually, while we were taking the walk audit, we had multiple photos of people riding bicycles down the road instead of on what pieces of sidewalks could be, and saw a lot of even people in wheelchairs on the actual roadway, the main thoroughfare through town, the busiest, because the sidewalks were not connected. Next slide. We gained a lot of information that day from the walkability audit. This picture actually shows us a connection at 20 and Washington Avenue is the main highway through the city of Cairo. And as you can see with those pictures, you can tell that there's definitely a lot going on and a lot wrong, and a lot of crosswalk situations that you definitely cannot see. Cairo is not conducive to walking because there is a lot of truck traffic. Like I said, Cairo actually, as soon as you get to the southern part of the state of Illinois, Cairo, there are two bridges, one that goes into Missouri and one that goes into Kentucky. So there's a very thoroughfare of, highway systems that all connect and drive through the city of Cairo. There's actually no traffic control in Cairo. There is not a stoplight in this town. And there are also very few, if any, flashing lights of any kind. Another thing that was noted by a lot of the participants that helped with the walk audit and the community members that were involved were talking about, there are some places where there are grass and weeds that are growing over the sidewalks to the point where from a yard into the sidewalks. And then it was not safe to cross because there was actually no median to actually stop. So you have to get across all of that area before a car actually is coming. There's no consistency or a huge lack of sidewalks in the city of Cairo. And so when we had these conversations in Cairo, what was really great about this piece about doing this in the city of Cairo is it really opened my eyes, and also the mayor and other interested individuals, because there were some immediate changes that could be made. I know that whenever we were walking and we determined that these houses that are derelict and therefore their grass is tall is keeping people from walking on the sidewalk, or we found some tree limbs that had encroached on the walkway so that you would go around the sidewalk, and some of those things were actually to be remedied really quickly. But the big topic of conversation that really come up at this kept coming back around at the end of this event when we were just summarizing different needs in order for, being able to get out and get active, was that the community members also pointed out that St. Mary's Park, which is a big park, big for our communities, is just kind of being underutilized because it also has no sidewalks around the park. The park is actually is a city block in that city, and there is no walking trail that goes through the park. So I think next slide. What that came to is whenever after we had that event, that kind of just kept buzzing around in our heads, that that there was something going on with the park. So in September of 2022, we held a pop-up event in St. Mary's Park to demonstrate a small scale walking path. And this actually was a big loop, and I don't have any better pictures without other people in them, except for I figured that I was comfortable using this one because that's actually my child. So I don't have the full loop, but what we did there was surveys were conducted for the community members to express what type of improvements that they wanted to see in St. Mary's Park. And so we got a lot of, there was a lot of buzz with this event. A lot of the people in town were really excited. The local motorcycle group decided to donate food, and we had food and drinks and people coming to try to invite people to come out to the park to give to look at our walking path, and also to give us some ideas of what repairs. The park has not had a lot of repairs in many years, and so we were kind of just trying to gauge what the community wanted to see. And some of the results of the survey were upgrades to the current ball field so that children could get active and be able to utilize that field, playground equipment, improvements to the bathroom, the renovation of the tennis courts, a walking path, additional lighting, and water fountains. And so what happened from there? So, I mean, that's a lot of, just kind of talking about different things that everybody needs. But from there, we were Southern 5 in the city of Carroll were able to use community surveys and that pop-up event as a community support component in a grant application to the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, their open space land and acquisition and development grant. And with that, and having all of those pieces in the planning that was the foresight and the planning that went into all of these different opportunities that I've discussed today, is that says 2003. I have a typo. In April of 2023, the city of Carroll received a $599,500 grant to make improvements to St. Mary's Park. Those improvements are going to include the renovation of the ball fields, the tennis courts, the bathrooms, new playground equipment, additional picnic shelters. And while the walking trail was not actually included in this project, the BRIC program was the catalyst to open the communications with the city of Carroll and its residents to learn of the needs in relation to walking and the need to create more outdoor activities for the community. So we were really proud that that some planning and all of that actually led to where we're going to be able to have funds to actually implement parts of our plan.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that look, Tiffany. Now we're going to zoom on towards St. Clair County, where Victoria will speak on the food security work being done there.
Guys, yes, I'm Victoria Zolman. I am an AmeriCorps service member for the University of Illinois Extension, and today I'll be talking about nurturing food security in St. Clair County. You can go to the next slide. So first, I just wanted to talk about some statistics. And so I'm going to be comparing St. Clair County to Monroe County, since they are within a 20-minute radius of each other. And we can just see the differences in their food insecurity rate. So in St. Clair County, theirs is a 9%, and that totals out to about 23,000 people of that population. Whereas Monroe County, again, like 20 minutes away, it's a 4.6, and that only equals out to about 1,600 people of that population. You can go to the next slide. And then I just wanted to do some present statistics since those were from 2021. These statistics are from county health rankings. And again, I'm comparing St. Clair County to Monroe County again. St. Clair County is ranked in the lower middle range of counties in Illinois, and that's 25 to 50%. And their food environment index is 7.3 out of 10, whereas Monroe County is ranked among the healthiest counties in Illinois and has been for a very long time, which is about 75 to 100%. And their food environment index is 9.2 out of 10. And you can go to the next slide, sir. All right, so I just wanted to share a little chart, and these numbers are from County Health Rankings again, and we can just see adult obesity on here, children in poverty, severe housing problems, poor fair health, and these all kind of correlate and group together with that food insecurity in St. Clair County. And you can go to the next one. And this is just another, I'm just comparing again, and you can see the differences. The adult obesity is about the same for each one, but again, their poor or fair health, severe housing problems, children in poverty is substantially lower than St. Clair County. And yeah, you can go to the next slide. So with that being said, there obviously were these issues that we needed to combat, and that's where the BRIC funding came in. And first we needed to identify some stakeholders to help out with that and give them a respective job. And here we have the stakeholders and their job. And these stakeholders came together and came up with 2 approaches to combat these issues. You can go to the next slide. So the first approach that they implemented was revitalizing abandoned community gardens and developing a sustainable community gardening plan regarding volunteering and events. And these are 3 garden sites that we chose, which with a bunch of amazing photos. And you can go to the next slide. So I first wanted to start with highlighting the Lalamere Garden out of those 3 gardens, since it is my baby that I've been working on for about a year. We were blessed enough to get a grant with the help of Eastside Health District. It's about $2,000 to help with renovations. And the renovations included just seedlings, a new faucet installed, new soil. We also just recently got a workbox that we can put the new tools that we bought in and to store it safely. We also had some amazing events happen because of this funding as well, which included an open house in the beginning of the growing season around May, volunteer opportunities for people, and pumpkin painting, which we just had in October, and it was so fun. The children loved it. We did it with the elementary school. And some volunteers that came out was the Autism Clinic, the SLU, and WashU interns, and they just helped with a lot of the upkeep of the garden and just helping us out where they can, and it was amazing to see. And we also were blessed enough to get a garden coordinator. Her name was Hattie Hayes. She's out of commission for right now, but she was amazing with educating us on different weeds that we needed to pull, how to pull them, how to shut down for the growing season properly. And she was just awesome. And then we also have some exciting news and partners that we are with for next year. The 2nd grade teachers, they will be adopting a bed, each teacher will be, and they will bring out their students to go out and learn about harvesting produce, responsibility, nutrition, all of those things. And it's just awesome to see. We're very excited for that. You can go to the next slide. So the next garden I wanted to highlight is the Christian Activity Center garden. They also were part of this initiative, and they have an amazing youth and business program that works with an entrepreneurship, and they basically take the produce that they are making and they are making food into it and selling it at local farmers markets. And it's just showing them responsibility, how to harvest produce, and how to sell and make profit off of these things. And some of the amazing food they made were salsa, such as the Gomber Ghost Pepper and Roosevelt Reaper salsa, as well as some pickles and fruit jams, which are really good. And they also had a pumpkin plant in October that made a huge pumpkin, and they were very excited to show it off. So that was awesome to see too. You can go to the next slide. And next, the SIU Charter School, they had a little bit of a rough starting time, but they always come back and they finish out strong. And Dr. Zerker, along with her intern Hannah, Carolyn Stewart, and Aaron Vance, they were all a big help with this garden. When the school year started, actually, Carolyn and Aaron stepped into Dr. Zerker's position and really took on this garden. They integrated a new course on human and environment interaction into the garden with the students, which really taught them a lot about just the environment, how to take care of their garden and responsibility again. And they also had efforts to reclaim overgrown beds. They were also having a little bit of issues with engagement of volunteers, but they still pulled through and they had an awesome growing season. And to end the growing season, they also planted some awesome, like really cool seeds to experiment with for the next growing season. So that's really exciting too. You can go to the next slide. All right, so the next activity that was implemented in their approach was distributing cold storage units to food pantries and other feeding sites that were in need of it, because they were serving such a large community and a lot of individuals, but they were limited to cold storage, which didn't allow them to have as much fresh produce and nutritious foods to offer to these people in the community. These were just all the feeding sites that we chose. It was about 8. And yeah, you can go to the next slide. So this isn't part of the initiative, but I did want to highlight the Jerome Food Pantry because those initiatives and approaches that we put in place really inspired us to start working on other projects since the results from those were so good, which I'll get into in a little bit. But the Jerome, oh, sorry, no, you're good. So the Jerome Food Pantry, they were also lacking engagement from the community and with volunteers. So I just stepped in, helped with some organizational needs with organizing dry goods, clothing donations, hygiene products, just all the stuff that they were getting in. And I also helped out with some volunteers. I had some of my SIUE classmates and students come in and help. And then they also had a bunch of Cahokia residents come out and teachers to help out a lot too with these events that they were doing, the clothing giveaways and food giveaways, which were a big hit within the community. People would come out from all over Cahokia, and they would just have a line outside of this building. Like, it was insane. They'd be out of the food that they were giving out within like 30 minutes. It was awesome to see. You can go to the next slide now. So now I want to talk about the amazing results that inspired us to, again, work towards, like I said, the Jerome Food Pantry, for instance. So I'm going to start with the results from the feeding site. So each feeding site that received a cold storage unit, they also had to adopt a nutrition policy. And this nutrition policy encouraged healthy food options, accepting more nutrient-dense donations, such as produce again, and installing healthy messages throughout their sites to educate anybody that would come in, such as the community and residents and whatnot, and volunteers. And each feeding site manager were also able to use a tool that could track their progress. And this tool was an environmental assessment, which was given prior to the technical assistance with the cold storage unit and after. And this was awesome for them to use because it just really helped them keep on track with what was working, what wasn't working, what they maybe wanted to implement more into to help with the health needs and whatnot. So yeah. You can go to the next slide. And then looking ahead, how this connected. So we are still supplementing food pantries with the produce grown from the local garden. So with the initiative that we did, each garden had their own respective either food pantry, feeding sites, whether it was a couple of them or one, and we would take the produce that we were growing and giving it to these food pantries. One example is, again, with the Lalamere garden that I was working with, we gave the produce to Mount Zion, which is in the Cahokia community, and they are just an amazing church and food pantry that would have these food giveaways on Saturdays, and they would give away the produce. It was awesome to see. And then we also want to expand this collective impact approach into other communities in need of these resources after the BRIC funding cycle is complete. So just keeping up with the resources by the local partners and the stakeholders, and just keeping it going and consecutive to keep up with the changing rankings and percentages in the St. Clair County. You can go to the next slide. Oh, I think it went back. Did it just like, oh, was that it? I guess that was it. Was that it? Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. If you guys also want more information on the stories I was talking about, because I really just touched base pretty quickly on them, Healthier Together has all of those stories. It's healthiertogether.net, I believe, and they have all the stories alongside a bunch of other success stories. So if you guys wanted to look more into that, you are more than welcome. But again, I'm always open to questions too at the end. So thank you guys.
Thank you. And I'll just note that we have been chatting some of the Healthier Together resources as we go along. So I urge you to check that out. And Edgar will send them around as part of the follow-up. Great job, Victoria.
Awesome. And our next presenter is Becky Salazar, speaking on the work done by the EAA to address and improve social connectedness in older adults in Southern Illinois.
Hello. I'll start out by saying when this happened, we were kind of in the pandemic times, and so everything we heard about, like aging services, they said, well, you can still provide them, but online, and it was just not an option for us. I mean, our seniors, they don't have the technology, they don't know how to use it, and they don't have internet, so they're really at a loss. So but it's, you know, as society's going, we're going to have to slowly start getting our areas to have those options. It feels unfair that they just can't get what, you know, everyone else can receive. So I do know, aside from us, I'll mention that the state's been working on a broadband access. And so I know they're trying to improve the internet. So it has gotten better in the last few years. So I hope that continues to happen. Anyway, that's how this kind of project started. And of course, people are socially isolated because it's COVID. And we thought, how can we get them connected and start trying to use technology? So I spoke to some community colleges, and so John A. Logan and Shawnee Community College jumped on board, and they were interested in providing some technology classes at senior centers. So we ended up going to 9 counties, and that was 10 senior centers that had classes, and each senior center got 6 classes. So you know, and most of them did them every week, so for 6 weeks. But there were times when a couple of the people had doctor's appointments, so they agreed to kind of shift the weeks around. So they were very flexible with that. And then John A. Logan, they noticed they were getting a lot of questions on remote controls for TVs. So they actually bought a smart TV for this program and took it to the senior centers and showed them a little bit on how to use your remote control and that kind of thing. So, and I know we had to do some flexibilities. Another one was people really felt like they wanted more one-on-one assistance. So they used one of the classes to divide the hour out for one-on-one rather than a group setting. So I feel like there were different formats that it was provided. And people that attended, we have very positive feedback. And we ended up getting over 100 people that went through all of those classes. So since then, our community colleges, we haven't utilized them, although they're wanting to touch base this spring. But I've gotten a high school to go in and do smartphone classes with the seniors. So that's been something kind of new, but that came directly out of this efforts, because I think seniors are hearing about people having had classes, so they're wanting to take a class and that kind of thing. I guess some of the goals I could mention was how to attend a Zoom meeting, use FaceTime to talk to family and friends, use social media. I know there was one fellow who he said his son is all the time got him this smartphone. It's like, you need to send me messages, you know, text me or something. And he's, you know, just very against it. And so he came to one of the classes, and I happened to be there. And he said, I guess I need to do this. And so they helped him send a message to his son. And his son immediately said, "You must have taken that computer class I told you to take." He knew immediately that something was going on. But it was fun because he was texting him throughout the class after that because he caught on. So I feel like it does open up this world where they feel more a part of society. I mean, can you imagine going out to a restaurant or anywhere and people are on their phone and you aren't on yours? And not that I'm saying people need to be on their phones, but I think there would be part of you that feels left out, and it removes a way that you can contact with people as we become more technology friendly. So, but we're back to getting off topic. But overall, I think we had really good results. I mentioned that, over 100 people in the classes and 10 senior centers. We did, on a side project, we had a grant for Clarice companion tablets. We were able to distribute 20 of those to persons who couldn't afford a tablet and they had kind of been through the classes or they knew how to use technology. And so that was nice to be able to provide that. There were some other grants that we used at the time. So I feel like we were able to connect people to technology who couldn't afford it. And I know some of those opportunities are still available. You just have to dig a little bit now to find tablets and that kind of thing. So, and the last thing I'll mention is as far as referrals for the program, we kind of set up a system, where senior centers or our case management unit, Shawnee Alliance, would refer people they thought could benefit from programs, as they were socially isolated. And we used a tool called the UCLA, I think it's loneliness scale. And so we tried to do some get some data that maybe would show, but it was very difficult because some people move away and to try to do that every 3 months. But I think just my overall feel was it did make a difference, so I think with more focus on the UCLA tool, we could get something like that. So that's it. Oh, well, what's next? I kind of mentioned some of that.
Awesome. Thanks, Becky. That was great. And again, I just want to give a thanks to all our presenters. We've learned so much. And so now we're going to go ahead and set some time aside for anyone that has any questions. Again, feel free to put them in the Q&A section and I will read them aloud for our presenters to answer. Now, unfortunately, Tiffany, who spoke on the walkability work from Cairo, had to leave a bit early. So feel free to contact her with any questions you might have. I'll put up her contact information later on at the end of the presentation. And so we did have someone type in the Q&A section talking about a community program where they were building commercial aquaponic greenhouse and a food pantry, and they were also building a fish house for elderly to eat and sit and to watch and fish. And they were asking where they can learn some more or how they can get involved. And we're going to talk shortly about a learning opportunity on public health and aging. IPHI will be hosting in spring. That may be of interest, a learning series. And then I also see another question. Let's see here. That was asking whether the U of I extension, SNAP Ed, and or the Master and Gardener programs were involved in the project that Victoria presented on. And I think.
Oh, did you want me to? Yeah, am I good to answer? I'm so sorry, Edgar. Yeah. Okay. So actually, I did want to touch base on that. So I'm happy you asked that. Yes. So we were with those initiatives and the results, we also were able, or Healthier Together was also able to implement a Master Gardener program. So that's where Hattie Hayes came in with me to be a garden coordinator. And we actually have plans for the future. We actually have 5 Master Gardeners right now in the program. They're about to start it, and they will each have their respective garden that they will be working with for 40 hours. That's their allotted time, kind of like a volunteer time. But yeah, we're still doing that. It was implemented and it's awesome to see. I know that Caroline Mitchell, she's one of my supervisors. She was in it, and she was helping me with the Lalamere Garden. And yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but yes, it was part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And I'd add, Victoria, that, yeah, I know that keeping a sustained program with the Master Gardeners is part of the longer term vision in St. Clair.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd add that yes, U of I Snap Ed is a partner on the
Mhm.
BRIC project. And in fact, Victoria works for like Snap Ed is her local
Yes.
host. So
Yes. Yep. It is all partners. It's a big umbrella of people, but they're all doing the same thing where it's like we just want to combat these community health issues and really just help the environment for these people in need.
Awesome. And I think I have a question for you, Becky. Becky, can you tell us a little bit more about your work to build a referral system?
Well, we're lucky we have kind of partners that we work with on other efforts, So we actually have a veteran program in house, and so we have a connection to the VA. And then we also fund Shawnee Alliance for their caregiver programs and some other things. So we kind of already have a relationship. So usually, like when this came up and social isolation kind of became an emerging issue, and we were starting this, it was kind of easy to call them up and say, what can we do to get your care coordinators to know about this so that we can get referrals easily. And honestly, the hard part is deciding what form they need to fill out to give us that information so we know to contact them or that kind of thing. So once we figured out what type of form they should send in to us, and then it became very easy after that. And it's the same for our senior centers. A lot of them would just do what we call warm calls, or they would call us directly, and then we would take it from there. So it was a little different with each place that we worked with.
Awesome. And I have one more question for you, Victoria. Victoria, can you tell us a bit more about, I know you already mentioned it a bit, can you tell us a bit more about your work to build a sustainable volunteer base for the garden work?
Yeah, so it kind of goes hand in hand with the events. So when we were thinking about events, at least for like when I was working with my garden, we really just wanted to get people out there that were excited about it. So it's kind of like an event to draw them in, such as the pumpkin painting, but then also talking to them about the garden and whatnot. And usually people would actually be really excited about the garden. They're like, oh my gosh, I always walk past it and I always want to like go in there and see it and stuff. And we always encourage these people when they come to these events that you can water the plants, you can pick a pepper if you want. Like it just always is with these volunteer events, with these regular events with the school, it's always encouraging people to just get out there and do whatever they want in regards to just like upkeeping the garden, picking a tomato or a pepper and whatnot. And yeah, that's just sustaining kind of I guess interest in it within not just the community, like not just volunteers and people that need volunteer hours, but also the community, and something that will help them in the long run. And yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. And then I also did just want to mention real fast with the Master Gardener plan or the Master Gardener training that it is it's provided by the U of I Cooperative Extension in St. Clair County. So I didn't know if I mentioned that before, but I wanted to mention it now. So yeah.
Awesome. So we can go to the next one now. All right. Next, I'm just going to give some resources and things to look forward to. So the RF Foundation for Aging work, based on the foundation we built through BRIC, both our region's work and the work we did to build awareness and collaboration among public health and aging partners at the state level. IPHI applied and was funded by the RF Foundation for Aging for a year-long project. The work will sustain the BRIC regional work on social connectedness, as well as the funding work to pilot innovative social connectedness work in additional counties, Vermilion and Lake and Kankakee County, I believe. This local work is going to form a set of statewide recommendations on ways to support further collaboration and knowledge sharing among public health and aging sectors. So look out for a 2024 learning series highlighting this local and state work. And then just as a reminder, we will also send a roundup of the resources on the partner work that we've been talking about and that you guys heard about today. And lastly, the IPHI convenes the Illinois Alliance to Promote Opportunities for Health, or IAPO, a statewide multi-sector coalition to support chronic disease prevention, advance health equity through a common policy and systems change agenda to increase access to nourishing foods and safe, accessible physical activity in communities. The IAPO priorities include the BRIC strategy areas. So we'll sign webinar registrants up to receive the IAPO newsletter. So you can receive updates on BRIC and work related to the BRIC strategies. And then Sarah will also drop the link to the framework, the new updated framework for IAPO. And then, the next slide. And then I also just wanted to mention that if your organization or just you yourself wants to get more deeply involved in this work, or just want to be a part of the conversation, fill out IAPO's organizational endorsement and commitment form and the link will also be in the chat. I see it right there. IAPO is embarking on a whole new chapter of our work with a new set of work groups and a new structure to more deeply engage community voice. Whether you join the leadership and equity committee, you participate in a work group, or maybe you just want to receive our newsletter. There's a place in IAPO for you. So if you want to read more about the different ways to engage in IAPO and the framework document, and we'll also send more resources as part of the follow-up. So we hope you become involved in IAPO. And then right here is the contact information to our excellent presenters. So if any questions come up, feel free to contact them. And yeah, that I just once again want to thank everyone for joining us today. I hope you guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you, presenters. Thank you, Edgar. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.
Thank you.